Hi folks, welcome to my 8-Bit Retro Journal. Today I'm going to continue with where I sort of left off last time. I was using my QL, using an original micro drive, which I'm not going to use today. I'm going to use my V drive SD card. But I was also using this ICANN controlled environment, which I used a lot back in the early 90s. It was very convenient and very simple. And if you note, you didn't see this on camera, but I used arrow keys to move, to move things around. And so now again, the bottom of the image is being cut off, so we're missing. There's a menu at the bottom, and there's beneath each of these three icons, there's it tells you which drive you're on, so you kind of have to do this a little bit by memory. Now again, if I put this in monitor mode, so MDV 1, 2, 3, 4, and now it'll hit the micro drive yeah, you can hear it beep, and it's going to show what's on the SD card. There it goes. And yeah, so this is where my that's my ZX simulator MDV, has all the basic programs that I test on it. I can also use this joystick, and I actually built this joystick myself. This was I forget what computer it was for. It might have been for an IBM PC. And what's nice about the QL, it uses an Atari, the Atari ports. And so if you look here, it's pretty simple. All you really have to do is you have to connect, make a connection. So you have up, down, left, right, fire, and ground. You don't need to connect the 5 volts DC. And I think reserved is for a second fire button. But again, the QL really only has up, down, left, right, and fire. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 8 are the only pins that are active here. And so make sure this is still focused. And so yeah, so it's not actually that difficult to create. So the reason I'm talking about this today is because I have this, which is an old Radio Shack mouse. I talked about that last time a little bit. It has unfortunately, it has, if I can get this out from under here, it has a DIN connector. And so what I want to do, so it's a 5-pin DIN connector. So that will not work with the, sorry, the cable is sort of stuck here. There you go. So that's actually not going to work with the let's put this in so you can see it. There we go. So that's actually not going to work with the QL. And so what I want to do is I have this, which is an extra Atari. It's like an extension cable. It has a male connector on one side and a female connector on the other side. And so I'm going to replace that cable with this cable, and then I will try to wire it up. Now, because it would be really cool to have a mouse that I can use to move the pointer around. So it turns out that the ICE environment actually came in a configuration called MICE, which stood for Mouse ICANN Controlled Environment, and it was a ROM cartridge that actually had a mouse attached to it. Well, I don't have that, and what I read about that is that it actually deactivated the cursor keys, and so I kind of want both. And so what I want is I want to be able to use that mouse, and when I move it left, right, up, down, it'll move. It'll just pretend to do those cursor keys. The problem, however, with this is that I read about how this works, and it actually I think it has 2 potentiometers in there that give it a signal strength that the TRS-80 color computer would then use to figure out where on the screen to put the mouse. So it does not give up, down, left, right. The mouse button, the mouse button certainly is like the fire button, but it does not give up, down, left, right. It gives you a range of those values. So how do I convert those to up, down, left, right? So we'll investigate that today to see if sorry, camera. I'm trying to get everything in. So we'll investigate that today to see if I can get this mouse working on my QL. So the first thing to do is to take it apart. So I will probably speed through this and then we'll desolder the old cable and cut the new cable, and yeah, so that'll be a fun little project. So let's do that. So it's got 4 screws on the bottom. See if I can't focus for it. There we go. It's got 3, I should say, on the bottom that hold that up. And if we open this up, it has, the mouse does come out. And it has a, this is the button. It has a little spring here, and I think that standoff is the thing that presses that button. And you can see that it has these so if I go here, yeah, see, these are potentiometers. As this thing moves, oops, I don't want to lose the ball. That's going to make a loud clanking sound. But yeah, so it has these potentiometers that they seem to they sort of stop. So they go to the one high, to the other high. It has a middle, and then the left and the right. So I don't know if you can see that or not. Alright, so what I'm going to do next, I'm going to try and take the bottom off to get a better look at that. See what we get. Here we go. And I think I need to take the little circuit board off too. Okay, well, unfortunately my camera filled up, its memory filled up, so I didn't quite get all of the desoldering and resoldering of the new cable. So instead of just showing you part of that, I'll just walk through what I did. First of all, you'll notice that I actually have the mouse connected with the new cable, and the results are, yeah, they're not perfect. So again, these are potentiometers. If I move, so I'm going to move the mouse left and right, if you can see that on the screen. So when I move it inwards, it moves left, but unfortunately it just stays that way, and you have to kind of move the mouse back. That's not really how mouse behaves. And the same with up and down. This is going to go down and this is going to go up, right? As I move the mouse forward, as I move the mouse back, with the ball rolling in a certain way. Certainly the So I can, the button certainly works. So I can, yeah, so that's it's going to relist that directory. So that certainly is going to work. It's going to take again about 12-13 seconds. The V drive isn't any different from an actual micro drive. But there it goes, yeah. So, but again, it's not, the problem is when I booted it up, it actually wouldn't boot up because it had the mouse sort of permanently going to the side. And so basically, if a key's pressed, then you couldn't press the F2 key and it wouldn't boot up. So that's a problem. Again, these are, I actually ignored the circuit board for the most part. And the reason why was because you can see that it has, let me use it. You can see that it has, it's got 3 connectors on each side, and those are for the 3 connectors on the potentiometer, right? So if you look at it on this side, you've got middle ground and then high and low, and then the board itself had those, and it turns out the middle was actually the bottom one because that's your ground. That's connecting both of them plus the button. And then the other 2, the middle ones were independent, but the outside one actually went all the way across and to that pin, but it connected both of those pins, and that wouldn't have worked for the QL. So I just kind of ignored the motherboard for the most part and just went straight in. So you had the white and blue cable were for on this particular cable that I used were for up and down, and then the green and brown were for left and right, and then the cable had extras. It had a red, a yellow, and a gray, and those weren't used. So again, I only used those 6 ground, left, right, up, down, and button. So only 6 of the 9 wires of these cables. But yeah, so it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. So I think what I want to do, well, first I'm going to put it back together just to see how it feels as I'm using it. But I think what I'm thinking of doing somehow, what we really want, minimal, is when this is moving all the way down, you kind of want to have spring back to the center position. And I'm thinking, what if I take a spring from like a pen, cut it down to size, and somehow connect it to here and here, so that as you move it, it'll just be naturally, it'll spring back to its location. So that's something I'm going to try. Just need to figure out how do I connect it, maybe with some glue or a glue gun. How do I connect it to both of these? So that might be an easy attempt to at least get this to work a little bit more normally. It'll basically be like a joystick that you roll on the mat, because it won't send multiple key presses. Because that's really what I want is something that would go. But of course, the problem with that is with the Hermes chip that's in there that gives you you can hear the key clicks, right? And so if I use my mouse, and if I go, oh, the mouse is not connected now. But if again, if you can hear past you can hear that the computer itself is making a key click sound because that's part of the Hermes chip. So that probably wouldn't work as much either with this. And so, yeah, I'll have to think about how to do this. But let me put this back together just to see what it feels like as a mouse. All right, so I'm going to put the bottom piece back on, and I think it goes in like that. And what I want is these cables to kind of be out of the way, so I'm going to stick them sort of in the middle here. All right, so yeah. And then I'm going to use, I think these are the screws. Oops. Yeah, I don't want to. I have 3 big screws, and I think the rest are all the same size. So I don't want to break the standoffs. There we go. That's in there. And then you're going to get... It's hard not to have my fat fingers in the way so you can see that I'm actually screwing it. So I'm not really set up that well for... Let's see if I do it sideways. So I always like to back it up a little bit until it gets the groove and then all the way in. Perfect. So that's sitting in there nicely. Hold on. It's actually not. So there's some, the wires were in the way. There we go. Now it sits there nice and straight. There we go. Oh, the wire keeps popping back in. There we go. Yeah, that's in there now and it's even, perfect. So tighten that, and is that in? Yep. Yeah, okay. So then these things need to get put back in. And this is just, these are just screws into metal, so not as critical to, it's hard to strip metal, though it's also harder to screw them in. There we go. It's probably not easy. Let's try something else. Oh, it's not in all the way, that's why. All right. This needs to go in. There we go. Now it's in. That was causing the problem. And screw that back in. There we go. That's nice. Screw that back in. Boy, that one just doesn't want to go in. There it goes. You can really see when it hits the thread, and if it doesn't, it just gets really stuck. You never want to force it when that happens. Just kind of try to find. Yeah, so this one just doesn't want to find a thread. So sometimes I just switch screws. Do no harm, right? Especially with retro gear. There. That did it. And of course this has to fit in here, otherwise I'll run out of screws. Got a good start, but now it's, there it goes. There we go. So we got this in there again. This is seated nicely. It's nice and flat. You don't, I keep looking, I feel like it's, no, it's in there. Okay, so then you have this, right, so we're going to want this, this is all going to want to go in here, poked through the bottom, I suppose. And I might have left it too long. Let's see what happens when I, there we go. Nope. Lots of wiggle room there, that's good. And then this, alright, this has a spring to it, and that is going to go with the spring in here. There we go. Yeah. That's how the button goes. And then and put the ball, which is really heavy. It's a really heavy ball. Boom. Wow. And then the mouse goes on top. There we go. And let's seal it up. Again, these are plastic standoffs, so you want to be careful. That's why, by the way, that's why I like using a small screwdriver, because you can't really put as much force on there, so you're not going to destroy anything. So let me try that. And let me try put the last one on. All right, let's see if my mouse project. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's going up, up, down. It's not going left and right. All right, we have a little bit of a problem. I have to open it up. Something, maybe a wire came off. See what we got here. I know at times the it's not usually. So yeah, so this the spring just came off. Let me take this off. Yeah, so what's going on is that this there we go. So the potentiometer snapped out. That's why. All right. So they do come off pretty easily. So if I want to replace it with something else, all right. One more time. We got to put the trackball, which is this heavy metal ball. And we're going to put the mouse here. So again. This has a little spring action which goes in here and sits on there like that, and then this goes in, hopefully closing it all up. Oh, come on. There we go. Let's see before it. Oh yeah, there you go. Like I said, it's kind of workable. We'll see. Let me close it up again, and then we'll do a quick demo of this mouse that is now. Let's see. Like I said, it's going to act more like a joystick, but at the same time, the ergonomics are different. So it could be that this might work out better. Then open this back up again. I don't like the way it's set. There we go. That's it. All right, here's my mouse. Yep. So let's hope we. All right, here's my mouse. So left, right, down, up. So it kind of works. I mean, yeah, I think what I need to figure out is, can I, so it's actually not bad. What would be helpful is if I go up, so if I stop, it really should, if you watch the mouse movement, if I go down, or if I go right, I have to move it back to center. Left, move it back to center. Back to center. So it's giving the right mouse inputs, but it's so what would be better is that I would have to continue to move it in this direction, and then I stop, it stops. It's not quite accurate, but what I could do, what my thinking is if I take a pen, you know, these pins have springs in them, and with a spring, if you add a rotational force, they kind of spring back. And so my thinking is on those wheels, if I can cut those springs and somehow affix them, maybe with a little bit of glue gun, then I might be able to, when I'm using this mouse and moving in this direction, it'll just, you know, what's important is if it can spring back, yeah, I could get that to work. That might be cool. But yeah, let me see if I can give that a try. All right, so I'm back, and here's what I did. And it wasn't quite successful. So you can see right here, I'm going to just zoom in. There's a spring, and if I move, it actually springs back. So that was kind of the idea. But unfortunately, I just used what I did is I poked a hole on the plastic here and the plastic there, and the spring, I bent the ends of the spring so that they shut out this way and shut out that way. And certainly does, I mean, it does spring back. But if I try it with the ball, I can just put it back into this case. Wrong way. It goes on this way. If I can zoom in on that. Nope, won't let me zoom in. I guess maybe if I go down, zoom in on that. There we go. If you see, that moves the, that's moving the wheel, but up and down, it just doesn't have enough force to move that spring. So you'd have to find a really light spring for it, and I just don't have anything like that. But certainly the idea worked so that, you know, it would move it and then spring right back, but unfortunately it just didn't quite work out the way I thought it would. So yeah, that was a nice try, but let me put this back together and then I'll finish up. So I got it back together, and you can see for yourself that kind of works. Mouse is right, mouse is left, down, up. What about circular? Yeah, I mean, you're kind of chasing it, but again, you're always going to have to figure out a way to stop it. And it's the small dexterity things that make it really complicated. Yeah, so this is the part that I'm going to struggle with. There we go. So I don't know if it's going to be very useful or not. So move it over one. And this is going to be an MDV on the next one. So yeah, not sure how useful this is. Was a nice try. What I like about this, of course, is it really sort of fits the look of the QL, right? The nice black, which is interesting because the color computer didn't really have that look. Move it back. But yeah, I think it's going to be too frustrating to use in the future. So just to show you what I did is I have the spring right here. Let me zoom in on that. So if I zoom in, you can see that I ended up bending the edges of it. It's just that the metal is just too strong for this to work. So unfortunately, there we go. I'm trying to see if that's a good level. Yep, so that's pretty good. So yeah, unfortunately, I'll have to do a bit more work. Maybe if I can find some lighter metal that'll move that. But I think there's going to be the friction of the ball that is going to cause it not to spring back. I might have to remove the two potentiometers and come up with my own mechanism where it's hitting a switch and then letting go, perhaps, or maybe pushing, hitting a button several times. It's going to be pretty complicated, but again, it would be really nice to have a mouse that, I mean, maybe the right way to do this is to build some sort of circuit that senses the movement and then translates this into a bunch of key presses, but that's going to be a little harder than making it. I was trying to solve this mechanically, but it would be really convenient to have a mouse that works on the Atari joystick style, where it's just giving you up, down, left, right, and fire button. I can see a way of doing it if the physics works out, and of course it's really nice that this kind of matches up color-wise, which is interesting because the color computer did not, I don't believe. It must have had some black in it, but this is a nice match to that. But so yeah, that was my attempt to try to see if I could get a mouse on my QL using for my ice, and like I said, it kind of works, but I think I'm probably better off using these or my joystick, which I still have. Yeah, that was my video entry for today. Again, thank you for joining me. This is the month of November, and a bunch of us are doing hashtag QLvember to celebrate the QL. So I hope you can watch a few more of these videos. I'm going to have a few more, at least 2 more for the month. Probably next I'm going to work on my SD card Wi-Fi server, which again can also be used for other computers, not just the QL. But I wanted to, since I had this mouse sitting around, I really wanted to play with that. So again, thanks for watching, and stay safe.